thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you again to the Apex team for all of your support in making this happen. Yeah, I think we're excited to be able to show you the exhibition, especially since y'all could not make it in person. And it went really well. Yeah, the opening. I think we'll be starting with showing the outside of the space. There it is. So this is Sabura. The sign there is in Portuguese. It says it's a cultural center, school, and theater museum. The space is actually not complete right now, which really worked well for us in terms of the theme of this exhibition. There's a lot of open space, and as you can see from this image, the ceiling is open on the second floor. So it actually gave us a lot of light and sunshine, which was right in alignment with the hopes of the exhibition. So that worked really well.
Yeah, it's also very green. Unfortunately, with the at this time of the day, we can't show you the back part, but it's very beautiful inside. And this was the first time that apologies for the dogs at the back. Not sure if you can hear us properly. Yeah. Okay. This was the first time that an art exhibition was hosted here, so that was also very important for us in working with the owners of the space. Maybe we can go to Pamina's work, which is right in the back of the point where we're standing right now. So this is Pamina Sebastião's work, and it's composed of this head-to-toe piece and 3 smaller images. And they're part of the series called Hacking the System. And the title of the work is The Act of Disappearing. This is a representation of the daily violence that is forced upon people through the binary categories of gender. And it also represents the death that is led to because of the gender binary, when people don't fit into these categories and struggle to navigate society.
That was good.
The next piece is by Yuk. You can see the video there. Hopefully we can open it to see better. This is a performance piece by Yuk Miranda, and it's called Zita. Zita is the story of a trans woman who grew up misunderstood by her family and society. The performance tells the story of a woman who was sexually assaulted and who feels like she has nowhere to go to for help. Zita is also a very brave woman who wants to dance, sing, and celebrate life as she is. And Yuk brings all of this in a very tender and uncomfortable way at times to the public. but it's a story that is important to be shared, and it was very important to have it on the day of the opening. For the next few days until the 25th of March, it will be streaming as video, not as the live performance, but as an actual film that the artist made.
Okay, so that was a snippet from Yuke's performance, live performance last Saturday. It was very powerful. And this is a still from Ileana Enzuelo's 2021 film, Cartas de Amor para Meninas Mal Comportadas, which translates to love letters for badly behaved girls. And it's a film that explores the divinity of women who love women. It's filmed in the pristine waterfalls of Namasha in Mozambique, not far from Maputo. And it depicts Black women nurturing and uplifting each other and a young child. It was screening just earlier today during our open hours as well. And like Yuke's video will be up until the end of the exhibition. We chose some quotes to share with you from the film that we found particularly profound and also connects well to the theme of this exhibition. They are in Portuguese, so we'll say them in Portuguese and then we can translate them to English. The first quote is, "A primeira vez que fiz amor foi com a minha mãe." The second quote is, "É doce o sumo dos frutas que crescem perto dos seus." So that first quote translates to, "The first time that I made love was with my mother." And the second quote is,
The second quote is the juice. É doce o sumo dos frutos que crescem perto dos seus. This means it's sweet, the juice that of the fruits that grow close to theirs, close to what is of them, perhaps family, or notions of family and belonging.
Yeah.
Maybe we can go to the next piece.
Okay, these two prints are of digital photographs designed by Amina Gemba, who is based in Abuja, Nigeria, and also spends time in Accra, Ghana. These works were designed this year, and they call into question notions of the gender binary as natural. The artist uses two vaguely African busts gendered in a sense as masculine and feminine, to harken to the origins of people, and also uses this tropical backdrop to intentionally create a false uniformity, which is playing with the generalized stereotypical imagery of Africa as this sort of jungle place. And also with the, well, I guess the fact of the continent being the origin of humanity. Yeah, Amina was the one artist that we didn't have at the opening. They unfortunately were unable to make it due to other travel plans, but we were really grateful for their piece because they're one of two artists who came from outside of Mozambique. And we felt it was really important to center Mozambican artists as well as, or in addition to having representation from other parts of the continent. Yeah, we'll go to the next one. And this is just, you're seeing the space here. These are some sculptures and plants and things that just were already in the space, but we used to our advantage to beautify. And apologies about the barking dogs. Those are not the dogs in our house. They're just city dogs being loud. Or, go ahead, Kai.
Sorry. Apologies. Pressed the wrong button there. This is the work by Yak Mashava. And the paintings are a part of a series of paintings and photographs by the artists. They seek to represent a source that they are still seeking to describe and to bring into words and the materiality, the meaning of this source. That is represented by the female body giving to the people underneath it. Another form of giving that the artist tries to portray is of these two entities to the right, who are representations of their ancestors and ancestors of people who are looking upon us and guiding us in our lives. Okay.
This next piece is by Mapengo, otherwise known as Marilu Namoda. It's a sculpture that they actually installed on site, which was really interesting to watch. And this work, which is called "What Does the Silence Pray For?", reflects the artist's process of hearing or listening to silence. It began with the central piece here, this wooden piece painted white, which Mapengo had shared space with for a long time during their childhood. It belonged to their grandmother, I believe they said. And it's neither a chair nor a table nor a wardrobe, so it's quite a mystery what purpose it serves, if any. And so Mapengo fashioned it as an altar for love and the liberation of humanity. So great, yeah, we have a video here that shows them interacting with the sculpture at the opening night. And with this piece, the artist is attempting to learn what this particular structure is, with its ambiguity, looking to the elements that complement the piece, such as the leaves, which carry the energies of three orishas. Orishas are archetypes in the Ifa tradition of the Yoruba people of Nigeria. And it's a tradition into which Marilu has been initiated. So that spiritual component is very important to them. So the three orishas are Yami, Eshu, and Obala Yue. And the fish in the center is representing humanity. Marilu quoted or said verbatim, "We are all fish." And here in Mozambique, the Nguni, who are a group of people native to the land, do not eat fish because they consider it a symbol of divinity. So that also reflected upon Marilu's own journey into reclaiming their ancestral traditions. Yeah, we can go to the next one.
These next three pieces are by Jessica Stagno, who is an upcoming artist. They have had their first solo exhibition this year, and it started or it opened, I think, in January or
in February, just a few weeks before or about a week before Sem Sombras, actually.
Yeah, so we were very happy to throughout last year as well to see Jessica gaining more recognition in her work, because when we spoke to her about joining the exhibition, she had still very little visibility. And so these three pieces from left to right are intuição, which means intuition, universe or universo, and guardiões, which means guardians. The first piece represents or captures messages of that encourage self-knowledge, and the colors that the artist uses vibrate the souls that have been how do I say enganadas? I don't know how to say this word in English. That have been mischieved by notions of shame and fear, of accepting their own inner strength. So the colors that the artist uses help to shake things, and you'll see that it's a recurring theme, not even just in these three pieces, but in other works of theirs as well. The next piece, intuition, colors are used to transmit emotions and movement in the infinite feminine energy, where you dive to discover your full self. And then Guardians is an ode to Jessica's ancestors, as she believes they walk with her, protect her, and guide her in this journey. Yeah. And that's it from our side. I'm not sure if this is the part where we go into a few questions, if people have questions, but we're open to anything that you might want to pose us.
Thank you, Onyịnye and Carolina. I have questions because I just am curious. Oh, so first, thank you for walking us through the exhibition. It's beautiful. I would just like to ask, a lot of the pieces make reference to culture and also to exploring one's identity and one's relationship with their gender and identity. And I wonder if you could speak to how important an exhibition like this is, where people are, I mean, just the relationship between culture and a culture that maybe is in conflict with the way a person identifies, and how important a space like this is, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, I think you're muted.
Sorry, we were like, who should go first? But I'll just answer. Well, I think we can both answer. Caió insisted I go first, so I will go first. Yeah, that definitely was a recurring theme in this work and in the conversations that came up the night of the opening. It's a complicated question. From my perspective, it's hard to talk about culture in Mozambique or most African countries without talking about colonialism, which has shaped the present day culture and the present day notion that allows queer people to be oppressed across the continent. I think every day there are emerging more and more examples of queer people having existed on the continent, and not only existed, right, because we always have and always will, but having been accepted and having roles and space to participate in society in a way that was affirming to them. And so that's really beautiful, because we know that, yeah, it just provides a good counter commentary, I guess, to the current conversation happening across the continent. We mentioned in our proposal originally in other media that there are certain countries where legislation is actively trying to further decriminalize and erase queer people. And those legislations are directly connected to the original legal statutes of the colonial structures that existed, namely the French, British, and to lesser extents, Portuguese and German. So we see that across the continent. And a lot of people now who argue against, or who are queerphobic, transphobic, homophobic, will try to use this notion of culture and tradition to further oppress people, not recognizing that what they're actually arguing for is neocolonialism and a construct that is not native to this land particularly. So I think that's what comes up for me, and yeah, I'll let Caió answer.
I resonate with what you've shared in terms of what the question makes you think about. I also think about having grown up here in Mozambique and not having, access to openly queer spaces, because until very recently, although there have been organizations that have been working for 10, 15, 20 years in and more in LGBTQ rights, it's only becoming more visible in the last few years, maybe 5 to 6 years. And to be a part of a part of this collective, I would say, that put this up, because for a lot of the time it was me and Onyịnye, but in the last week that we were organizing and preparing for the opening of the exhibition, particularly because two of the artists were staying in the same place as Onyịnye, there was like a moment to also build new, create bonds, bond with people, and that is also very important, and I think is embedded in what has turned out to be the exhibition. I guess it also puts us in a place where we are active agents of that movement that has been happening for a long time in its different ways, and we are contributing in our own way with this exhibition. So I think that's what comes up for me when you question that. Yeah. Not sure if there are any questions. Any other questions?
Yes, we have a question from Stephen Rand, Apex Art founder. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's Stephen. That is a good question. That was something we asked ourselves as well, or rather throughout the whole planning of this, we've been very concerned about maintaining safety for our artists and also for attendees to events. There hasn't been any explicit threat of violence, which is great. Bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the ways in which maybe Maputo and other cities in Mozambique differ a little bit from other countries. Not to say that there is no violence, there is violence, daily violence that is felt particularly by trans people. But it is also possible to create these spaces and not feel like there's a life threat, not feel like this will be life threatening, but with real consequences. But obviously there's a concern about, you never know who might react to the things that we have put up, but that's also something that we talked about with the owner of the space, Manuela Soeiro, who has been working in theater for the longest time ever, and she's an elderly person, and she manages this space and another theater. And we also talked to her about the exhibition, how it would be focusing on queer people and queer experiences. Yeah, and it's been an interesting experience in that regards, that we have not so far, not experienced any imminent violence threats. So, yeah.
To the other point in your question, what are the laws? Homosexuality isn't criminalized here in Mozambique. The language isn't extensive. It doesn't talk about gender expression, at least not that I know of. I think generally the understanding is like gay and that's it. Like there isn't really an understanding of like the difference between gender expression, sexuality, all of that. So it's just like yeah, very basic, I think, but there aren't any punitive laws. So people technically are able to present however they want and do. Identity declaration, there isn't any like, the gender options on identification materials are still male, female. Maybe Caió can speak better to this being from here, but I don't think that there's the option to change your gender on documentations to reflect.
Not that I know of so far.
Yeah.
That
So-
would be a very difficult process, and we are not there yet. Yeah.
So it's likely that most trans women still have the M for masculine or masculino in their identity documents. Yeah.
Thank you. And by the way, thank you for doing the show. All of these things move incrementally, but always in the right direction.
Definitely. Yeah, and like the opening night was really fantastic. I think for me, one of the highlights was several people coming up to us and saying, thank you so much for putting this on. Like, we need more events like this. They're like basically begging us to do more, which would be so nice, but Caió and I do not have that much more time. So we're hoping that it at least inspired other people to take action. We have another event in about 2 weeks, Utopia, which will be a conversation as a follow-up to this and to give people more space to engage, because people were definitely thirsty for it.
Well, you know,
someone has the answers. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You know, the brochure has gone now to about 6,500 people around the
wow.
world.
Wow.
Amazing.
6,500.
Yeah.
Yep. Free of charge
Okay.
to individuals, organizations, museums. Yep. Hopefully you'll hear from a friend that you didn't know got one to tell you they did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sending them out.
So that was all through Apex's email list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a really long email list.
And our social media is actually quite extensive as well. So you're reaching a lot of people, and the talk today will be archived, and we tend to have people finding talks sometimes more often than attending them.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I do that. I sign up for the thing,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, I'll watch the recording. But yeah, people will watch.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
see that Chikube has a hand raised. Did you have a question?
I do. Firstly, I'm sorry that I missed the actual tour, dogs and such. But I'll make up for it when I see it in person, right? So I'm excited about that. I wanted to ask you all, you spoke a little bit about this when you mentioned, Caió, the 2 people who stayed with you or stayed in the same place as you. And so I was kind of curious to hear about, this was like a year-long process or something like that, what some of your experiences were bringing artists together for this project, right? The actual curation part of reaching out to queer artists, how did you identify these folks, or how did they, make contact with you, right? What that process is like when it's often so difficult to connect to other queer people in, open ways. Just what that was like for you, and maybe a little bit more about some of those bonds that you say are starting to form.
Hi, Chikube, thank you for your question. This process started after we got the email from Apex saying, congratulations, you were approved. You won one of the 4 exhibitions with over 700 jurors. So that in itself was a very big achievement for us. And since that first email, we started thinking about who we would like to see. Yeah, just also the artists that are already known here in Maputo. Some of the artists have already, you know, they have been performing or presenting continuously or in and out, but they have interesting processes that also in talking to each other, it's not people that we don't know from anywhere. It's people that know someone who knows someone, and that's how the actual artist list came to be. There were also a few artists that we wanted to call and that were part of the initial list, but that then we either didn't get a response from or yeah, didn't actually engage with, because we had already started talking with the people that we have here today. And you know, hopefully that is take on for another exhibition of this sort for a future, if someone wants to pick it up. But also the bonding part of the actual artists that we called and that accepted to participate. It was very important, particularly in the day before the exhibition and the day of the exhibition, because we had a lot of surprises in the preparation, and we wanted to have them engage as well as active participants, active people in the production. So of course that was not like an obligation, but we would invite people to contribute their ideas as well. So I think that also opened up space for those bonds to create. And because this is such a beautiful space, we also stayed here the night before the opening. We stayed here until 2 a.m. And the night, the day of the opening, we also stayed here the whole day. So it was very packed, and people contributed what they could, even if it was like trying to glue a wire to the wall and to the ground to make it look less visual, or something of like more dimension, which is helping to see how the lights would be in place. So yeah, that was also a learning process for both of us, I'd say, because it was the first exhibition that each one of us has curated.
Yeah, and just to your point about the experience of them staying at my house, that actually was really nice. The two artists who stayed with me were Mapengo and Pamina. Pamina came from Angola and Mapengo came from Kilimani, Mozambique, which is north of here. So it was really nice to have them there. Like Caió mentioned, there aren't a lot of explicit, well, I don't think there are any like explicitly queer spaces in Maputo. There are queer events, but brick and mortar style, not quite. So the house kind of became that space for the weekend. And the following week, actually, we had a lot of meals together, we cooked together. There's a pool in my house, so people were like swimming at the pool and just hanging out. And yeah, we, during those moments, which are just kind of like mundane moments of living, we just had this recurring feeling that like, this can be just a norm, you know, like this can be a community. Like we already have the community, we just need the space to let that flourish. So yeah, got us thinking a lot about the need for physical space, to occupy physical space, especially public space. And yeah, just was so much, there was so much love, you know, just everyone was just so sweet and caring for each other. And for us, that's like the most important thing, especially as queer people, especially in a place where queerness is still very much repressed. Caring for each other and protecting each other is really important. So it felt good to be able to foster that.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
No, I think Ariel may be dealing with her son for a moment. There we are.
Hi. Thank you, Onyịnye and caió. Again, for walking us through this wonderful exhibition. We are really excited to continue to see and hear about all the ways Sem Sombras Unshadowed expands beyond this exhibition. And it's really powerful, even in the way you are holding space for queer and trans people in Mozambique and ultimately beyond Mozambique, right? This is a message, like you said, like holding this kind of space is important, socially, politically, personally. And so thank you for your time and thank you for this exhibition. And if anyone is in Maputo, Mozambique or can make it, we do hope that they stop by your exhibition. Thank you.
Yeah, actually Chakuve is going to be joining us in Maputo in like 9 days or 11 days. 10 days, whenever the 14th is. So we're very excited about that.
That is exciting. Thank you. This is amazing. Everybody, please stay tuned to the Apex Arts site. If you have some social media or website that people can keep up with Sem Sombras, in addition to the Apex Arts site, please drop that in the chat and keep us updated. And we hope that everyone enjoys the rest of their days, the rest of their evening, and we look forward to future programs. Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.